We're just 1 week away from the biggest crypto event in the US. And honestly, it feels like an incredible time to be a part of this space. The largest economy in the world is not only embracing crypto, but actively pushing it forward. That's huge. What's even more exciting, Ripple seems to be perfectly aligned with this momentum. There's so much to unpack here, and we need to talk about it. Let's rewind to June 27th, when Ripple decided to drop their cross appeal with the SEC. Now, they're expecting the SEC to drop their appeal too. But so far, we haven't heard anything. We're still waiting. Honestly, I can't see any reason why the SEC wouldn't drop this appeal and just move on. It feels like it's time to get this case behind us. That said, I think this lines up pretty well with what's happening in the US right now, and we'll dive into that in a bit. First, I want to touch on Ripple's recent announcement about applying for a national bank charter license from the OC. That's a pretty big move, and it's super interesting. We've talked about it before, but it's worth digging into more. All right, let's break this down. The key focus here isn't really about Ripple turning into a bank. It's more about what this move enables Ripple to do next. And that's where things get really interesting. They're applying for a Fed Master account, which could give them direct access to hold RLUSD reserves with the Federal Reserve. This would add an extra layer of security and help build long-term trust in RLUSD. Pretty big deal right now. We'll dive deeper into this in just a bit. There are a few other things happening soon, like what's coming up around July 14th or that week that tie into all of this. So stick around because it's all connected and you want to keep this in mind. Let's talk about July 14th. Mark your calendars because it's shaping up to be a huge week for crypto. The US House has officially declared the week of July 14th as Crypto Week, where they'll be discussing major legislation like the Clarity Act, the Anti-CDC Surveillance State Act, and the Genius Act. This could seriously be one of the biggest weeks in crypto history. Why? Because what happens here could completely change the game for the US crypto market and even ripple out to impact the global crypto scene. The decisions made during this week might set the tone for how other countries approach crypto moving forward. It's a big deal and could really speed things up on a global scale. The official announcement is already live on the Financial Services website. Big news from Capitol Hill. The House Committee on Financial Services, Chairman French Hill, House Committee on Agriculture, Chairman G.T. Thomas, and House leadership have announced that the week of July 14th will officially be Crypto Week. Exciting, right? Here's what they had to say. We're taking historic steps to ensure the US stays at the forefront of innovation. We can't wait to see what Crypto Week brings to the House. After years of hard work in Congress, we're making big strides with landmark legislation to create a clear regulatory framework for digital assets. This framework is all about protecting consumers and investors, setting clear rules for issuing and using dollar-backed payment stablecoins, and ensuring Americans' financial privacy by permanently blocking the creation of a central bank digital currency, CBDC. Funny enough, it's interesting to see stablecoins and CBDCs mentioned together here, almost like they're totally different things. I want to thank my colleagues in Congress and the Trump administration for their partnership and leadership. I'm also ready to collaborate with the Senate as they push forward with their standalone market structure legislation, aiming to get it done by the end of September. House Republicans are making big moves to advance President Trump's vision for digital assets and cryptocurrency. During Crypto Week, 3 major bills are up for discussion: the Clarity Act, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, and the Senate's Genius Act, a strong collaboration between the Financial Services and Agriculture Committees, led by Chairman French Hill and T.T. Thomas. I'm also excited for President Trump to sign these important measures into law. As part of our commitment to make the U.S. a global leader in digital assets, House Republicans are gearing up for Crypto Week. We'll be bringing the Clarity Act, the Anti-DEX CBDC Surveillance State Act, and the Senate's Genius Act to the floor. These bills are all about supporting growth, innovation, and providing a clear path forward for digital assets. When you break it down, all these quotes are pointing to one thing. They want to push for wider crypto adoption and really open up the market in the US. As Brian Steele puts it, this could be the golden age of digital assets kicking off right here in the US. And honestly, it all comes down to getting the right legislation passed to make it happen. We've been following a lot of what's been happening in the crypto space this year. And wow, has it been active? Looking back at all the developments from April, May, and June alone, 2025 is already shaping up to be a huge year for crypto. And we're only 7 months in. Honestly, it's crazy to think about how much the US government has been working on crypto regulations. It feels like a complete 180 compared to just a few years ago. And if you thought things were slowing down, think again. Crypto Week has been packed with major legislative moves, and there's more on the horizon. According to Eleanor Tourette, the next 2 weeks are going to be big for crypto in Congress. Next Wednesday, the Senate Banking Committee is holding a market structure hearing, and we might even see a discussion draft take shape. Next week kicks off the House's big Crypto Week, and there's plenty to watch for. This week is already shaping up to be exciting with a full committee hearing on market structure led by the banking GOP. Mark your calendars. It's happening Wednesday at 10 a.m. EST. We've got an impressive lineup of witnesses, including Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, the Blockchain Association CEO, Chain Analysis's CEO, and a general partner from Paradigm. Yep, Ripple CEO will be front and center at this key hearing on market structure. It's going to be an event you won't want to miss. This takes me back to when I mentioned the FSB giving Ripple a chance to weigh in on global crypto regulatory frameworks back in December 2022, right in the middle of their SEC lawsuit. And guess who was on the FSB board at the time? Gary Gensler. If that doesn't make you question the legitimacy of this lawsuit and think it's all been orchestrated, I don't know what will. Now let's fast forward to the week of July 14th, because when we talk about things being planned, this week is a prime example. What's happening that week? The Federal Reserve is rolling out ISO 2022 for the FedWire Fund Service on July 14th. Coincidentally, Congress is also dubbing that week Crypto Week. And at the same time, Ripple is filing for a Fed Master account and applying for a national bank charter with the OC. Seriously, you couldn't make this stuff up. For anyone saying ISO 2022 has nothing to do with Ripple and XRP, hold on a second. Let me break it down for you. I actually talked about this back in May 2023. So if you've been following Ripple and XRP, this might sound familiar. You've probably heard of Volante, right? They're kind of a big deal. We're talking about a company that works with 125 banks, financial institutions, clearing houses, and corporate treasuries across 35 countries. Oh, and let's not forget, they handle millions of transactions and trillions in value every day. They power 4 of the top 5 corporate banks, process 40% of all US commercial bank deposits, and support 70% of global card traffic. Yet they're that massive. So here's the scoop on Ripple from a guide for banks and financial institutions about ISO 2022 migration. It's pretty fascinating. What's even more exciting is that Volante just extended their partnership with Citi for global ISO 2022 migration. It's wild how the connections between Citi and Ripple keep building, especially since the Metico acquisition. Definitely something worth keeping an eye on. Oh, and check this out. I'll pull up something from Volante real quick. Fintech futures share 5 key success factors for a smooth ISO 2022 migration in their guide for banks and financial institutions. Oh, here we have a section just below this quote from HSBC. By the way, a known partner of Ripple. Remember, they announced plans to tokenize gold using Ripple through Ripple custody. Pretty exciting, right? Now, just below that, there's a key point about how the shift to ISO 2022 is about more than just ticking boxes for Swift or market infrastructure requirements. It's all about adapting to a payments ecosystem that's constantly evolving and full of diversity. Big changes are happening in the payments world, and the next few years are set to reshape the industry in ways we can only begin to imagine. Innovations and fresh ideas are paving the way, and at the center of it all is ISO 2022. This global standard is designed to bring together different systems, standards, and payment methods from around the world, creating a more unified and efficient system. One standout example of this is Ripple. In May 2020, Ripple, a well-known competitor to Swift, became the first distributed ledger technology company to join the ISO 2022 standards body. It's a major step forward and highlights just how big of a role this standard will play in the future of payments. And this insight comes courtesy of Volante. Did you know one of the biggest names in institutional finance, Deutsche Bank, is fully on board with ISO 2022? Their Flow platform even published a post last November 7th, highlighting how ISO 2022 is paving the way for a more connected future. Here's where it gets exciting. There's a quote from Standard Chartered that says, "We could use ISO 2022 to bridge between traditional and decentralized finance." But wait, it gets even better. Ripple is mentioned directly. The post highlights a growing number of payment service providers and coin platforms that are native to ISO 2022, including Circle's USDC and Ripple's XRP. This insight comes straight from Standard Chartered's Global Head of Transaction Banking. ISO 2022 could be the perfect bridge between traditional finance and decentralized finance. When you combine its rich data capabilities with emerging technologies, you get an incredible innovation system. Pretty exciting, right? There's been a growing discussion about how ISO 2022 adoption needs to be considered alongside new tech. Some people say, oh, ISO 2022 has nothing to do with blockchain, DT, or XRP. Well, guess what? It has everything to do with them. It actually enables these technologies. Oh, and just to share, I mentioned this over in my community on X. If you're not a member yet, it's free to join. I even got 100% confirmation from a major bank employee on how critical ISO 2022 will be. I was just talking about this. What's even more fascinating is that they specifically mentioned Ripple and XRP right alongside Circle's USDC. Fun fact, Standard Chartered was an early investor in Ripple back in 2016. Plus, Zodiac Custody from Standard Chartered is actually part of Ripple Custody. Oh, and did I mention that Ripple was the first DT-backed platform to become ISO 2022 compliant? The connections here are pretty major. And here's something interesting. Deutsche Bank and Standard Chartered made a big move on April 21st to expand their crypto operations. This isn't the first time we've seen major banks diving into crypto services, especially those connected to Ripple. Even back in January, Bank of America's CEO mentioned they were eager to explore crypto-based payments, too, if regulators gave the green light. It's clear that we're witnessing something big. TradFi and DeFi are coming together in the crypto space, and it's happening fast with major names like Ripple leveraging DTS like the XRP ledger. This shift is only going to accelerate. Now's the time to really focus on utility-driven projects, because the next wave isn't just about gaining users, it's about unlocking trillions of dollars. What's wild is that 2025 seems to be the year everything changes. Big banks and institutional players are stepping out of the shadows and saying, we're diving into crypto payments, tokenization, all of it, and it's not a coincidence. This is also the year ISO 2022 adoption ramps up in a big way. The cutoff is coming up this November. That's when Swift officially goes live with it. Are we really saying none of this is connected? That it's all just a coincidence? Of course not. This has all been part of the plan. In 2025, it's going to be a massive year for crypto. Honestly, I think this has been in the works for a long time. You think about it, the case is wrapping up. Ripple is applying to become a bank, and they're going for a Fed master account. At the same time, we're seeing July 14th Crypto Week lining up perfectly. with the implementation of ISO TU2 for Fedwire Fund Service. You really can't make this stuff up. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notification so you don't miss out on more free content. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. And peace out.